Why don't we just have the aluminum in the basement and just
It's not-
like we used to?
It's not my decision.
Why have you a voice?
I was asked, I indicated that a number of people would prefer that. I shared that with the rabbi.
And we were ignored. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I guess the rabbi's like my wife.
But-
I speak and
But
I'm
why-
ignored.
Did you give the suggestion that the second minute you got it upstairs? Like originally they were supposed to?
I think that there was an issue there with a problem with upstairs.
Okay.
All right, Zev, you're gonna be over here? Okay. Move out of the way. Okay. Do we need more chairs? We have them here.
Are you the chairman too?
Yeah.
Is this yours or? Is this yours? No, that's Marty's. Mine's good.
Do we need more chairs?
Somebody's in here?
That's yours, isn't it?
Two?
Oh, that's not his. I don't know. But whoever's it is, it's apparently there.
Okay.
Is there a name on it?
Marty, because of the.
You got room here, Marty?
Oh, I can move this way. You got it up? You right now? Oh. Table is not very comfortable. I'll put it up.
Well, I'm gonna share with the I'm gonna send the rabbi
What we
an
want
email
to
again.
do is
tell
give
them
you
that it's a
taste
little-
of the Altaheim,
Well,
where the Talmudim had to struggle in cold, sleep on benches, find a corner to learn in.
So I moved to Florida to stay away from the snow.
But you still have to find a corner to learn in. It's still part of the drill. Where are you, Hope?
I'm gonna start with the learning sponsors. And then we'll get to the Gemara.
This is where we stopped yesterday.
55A1.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll pick up somewhere around there.
55.
Do you know where?
Yeah, we stopped by May Street,
Okay.
right here.
Okay.
But it usually goes back.
Right?
That's
Yeah.
May Street.
Okay. We got this.
We'll go down to May
Sam
Street.
has not been coming lately.
Sam is not feeling well.
Yeah.
I spoke to him Monday. I don't even know what we are.
Today is
That
Tuesday.
I spoke to him yet on Sunday afternoon.
All right. Guys on Zoom aren't on. Sid, I guess, had to leave early. He had to get ready to travel.
Yeah, leaving today.
Oh, he's leaving today.
Changed it to
I
today.
thought they was
With the weather or something.
leaving tomorrow. The hurricane storm. Yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
But it's not whatever's left. It's made, they're gonna have 5 inches of rain. It's major weather.
Those who have lived on the shore,
take a look at New Orleans and see this is what's left. Yeah.
we lived there for 2 years in New Orleans.
Oh, man.
So as they were showing pictures and describing locations,
You knew the neighborhood.
certain ones, well, from Katrina, the house we had lived in isn't there anymore. That's what happened. So now the question was, did they ever rebuild a house on that lot?
That house must be in Texas someplace.
Karen looked for it, she
Is
couldn't
the
see.
kosher restaurant still there?
Question.
Question that it's still there a question that it's still kosher.
More a question if it's still, if he, it was affected, the whole Jewish community was
Was,
seriously
Yeah,
affected
but look
by
at Houston.
Katrina. It,
3 times I got emails asking for money for the Houston community.
I believe it.
So the first 2 times I sent him money. The third time I said, why don't you guys wise up and move?
Well, I think it's,
No, it was in 1 year.
Houston was also another issue too.
We can move to higher land.
It was how they developed the area too. New Orleans, you don't have that choice. Okay, we lived in Metairie. Actually, we didn't live in Metairie. We lived between the city and Metairie at the time. And it was closed, the shul, just to tell you, and then we'll go into, we saw pictures after Katrina where they actually had to take a boat into the shul to get to the Aron
To take that.
to take out the Sifrei Torah. They had to take a rowboat into the building to be able to get and access the Sifrei Torah and the
They were
Sefer.
having the news and the reporter used an expression that the locals referred to, let's not call it New Orleans, at the bowl. The city is actually surrounded by the
Oh.
levees. The city,
Right,
like
the
a
city
bowl.
is below.
It is a bowl. It's
Below
below
sea
sea. So it wasn't worried too much about the levee, it was the rain. You can't put a levee.
So
in
when
the
you
sky.
pray in that shul, it's mima'akim b'chasicha.
Well, the building was built that way.
Yeah,
Seriously, the men's
that's a halacha.
section
You're
was
supposed to
down
have it.
below and the women, okay, and that was why they were able to have a boat come in through the men's section and get to the Aron, because you then had steps going up,
Ay,
okay, things like that.
But
It was,
the wind was so strong, it changes the current of Mississippi.
well,
River.
you also need to understand that, okay, you've got water on one side, the Gulf, then you've got the city.
Lake Pontchartrain.
Then you have Lake Pontchartrain right behind it. Lake Pontchartrain is the largest man-made lake in the entire United States.
It's bigger than Lake Mead?
What?
Is it
Oh,
bigger
yeah,
than Lake
3
Mead?
times the size.
Okay, so if you have a storm, and so you've got
And then you
water,
have New Orleans below with sea level,
Yeah.
completely surrounded by water.
Oh, they have to put it-
Right.
What
Right.
they need is moisture up there. That whole back of Manhattan.
No, you see me on
Yeah,
Zoom.
but the Manhattan is a
I
rock.
do, yeah.
It's
I
elevated.
mean, I've always wanted to try to be in two
This
places.
is
so-
They,
Okay.
in order to.
Right.
How come people are still living there? They don't learn.
No, listen, it's another whole issue there.
The whole city is a bowl of low sea level.
Yeah.
How do you get out? You drive or you.
And
So
the
there's bridges all over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't have a seven.
And Grand
They
Isle,
put, they put these metal boxes. And when,
Where
and
the
then the
levees.
cover is
Right.
in, they put
Right.
metal, it's state law.
Right.
And then when Katrina came,
Everything floats up.
these things not
up.
floated up, they
Yeah.
popped
Popped
up and
Yeah.
flew like 10 feet in the air at it with the water pressure, because they have air in them.
Yeah.
They're sealed metal boxes and they popped out of the ground, floating away.
Hard to keep a good guy
But-
down.
No, the bodies are in the boxes. But in order to bury someone there, you have to put the Aron into
Inside a
sealed
metal box.
That's the problem.
Because of
let's
the
get-
groundwater.
uh-huh.
Here you have a comfort box.
Yeah.
Not everywhere, the one over.
Where are you starting from?
Well, I'm gonna do the sponsors, then we'll start again. All right, gentlemen, let's let's get started with the sponsors and then we'll pick up the Gemara. The year of learning by excuse me, Sue and Arnie Garelick in memory of Malcolm Perlman and Philip Mann. Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Henry Rivka Pro Razel bas Arav Tzvi Hirsch, and family murdered in the Holocaust, Arav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Marcia Federbush and family, in memory of her husband, Dr. Uriel Paul Federbush, Uriel Pinchas ben Harav Shimon. Sharon and Fred Lisker, their family and many friends, in memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Abel Bas Yaakov, Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Stella Irving and Pearl Kaplan, friends of Avi Gidler, Avram Meir ben Shimon, and Martha Gidler, Sharna Bat Yeshaya, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Sarah Tova Bat Yisrael Dov in her memory, friends of Malka Levy, Malka Bat Yosef, friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef Ben Chaim, Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine, in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Matabat Asher. A month of learning by Gary and Marsha Schrager, in memory of his father David Ben Yosef and his mother Freda Bas Hendel. Dov Budlander, in memory of his parents, Tzvi Ben Yaakov Yitzchak and Bela Drasha Bas Arav Dov Ber, and his in-laws Yudit Tzvi Ben David Nachum, Alta Chaya Bas Avram Yosef. Mel and Haran Haller, in memory of his father, Avram Ben Zev. We have a week of learning by Edie and Steve Vigder, in memory of her mother, Gilkel Bat Avram Yaakov, by Charlie Gelfenstein, in memory of his brother, Shimon Ben Meir. Also have, today is the 31st, right, by Milton and Gail Miller, a day of learning in memory of his father, Yaakov Shlomo Ben Kalanimus. May the Neshamas have an aliyah, tranquil the fear of that they share Shema Tzliah, and Lachol B'nai Israel and Great Ben Shtiah.
Amen. Did you hear that Charlie Gelson finally approved?
Oh, no, I hadn't.
Yeah, he's gonna go on Aliyah.
On aliyah.
Yeah, I believe so. That's it. That's its plan.
His son, he goes back and forth. His son is there.
Yeah, but now
I
he
think
wants to
he's
go on
staying.
He
Aliyah.
wants to stay. Yeah.
He wants to stay.
Can I respond?
Okay. All right, so I want to go back quickly to the bottom of Nun Hay, Amud Beis.
He was right.
Okay, just,
Mandala on the base.
I'm sorry. All right, got the wrong, okay,
You're going
right, Nun Dalet Amud Beis, okay?
What do you
We
want to go
kept-
back to? Now?
Nun Dalet Amud Beis, on the bottom where it talked about the fact that Rabbi Yochanan said, how did they know some sort of heker, some sort of sign to tell them, remind them that the Rosh Chodesh was fixed appropriately? Okay, and he gave an example. Okay, and then the Gemara tells us they gave a different example. Okay, that different korbanos were placed in different places. There was one on the right side on the east side, one on the west side, and one
Smack in the middle.
underneath. Okay, and the Gemara ended there. Shel Rosh Chodesh nitnin tachet karkuv hamizbeach ulamata. That it was below the ledge, below the which we
At
call
the
it there.
halfway point.
Okay, there. Okay, so that was what the Gemara finished. So on top of Nun Hay, right, and Va'amar Rabbi Yochanan, and so Rabbi Yochanan picks up there. Leda shehu kvar Rosh Chodesh was mano. He says that the reason that it was put there was to remind again, publicize people that Rosh Chodesh was set according to its appropriate time. Okay. All right. So the Gemara then. Okay. Trey Hakera Avdinan. We do two different signs or representations, right? He says the Chazi Hai Chazi, the Chazi Bahai Chazi. Those who could see this one, okay, knew by that, and those that could see this one knew by that.
Two signs is better.
Okay, so in other words, those who were outside in the Azara could see how they located the korbanos, and those that were otherwise. Okay, so that's where the Gemara. That's where we sort of stop. Okay, all right. So we pick up from a challenge. May Tivei, the Tani Rabba Bar Shmuel. He taught as follows: Yechol kashem shatokin al Shabbat b'fnei atzmo va'al Rosh Chodesh b'fnei atzmo. The same way that they sound the horns, the trumpets, okay, on right, for Shabbat.
On
for-
Musa.
Okay, so they were doing it. In other words, we were discussing the fact that someone had suggested you blow trumpets for each of the Musafim, right? So you could do it for the Musaf for Shabbat, you could do it for the Musaf of Rosh Chodesh, right? Kach yihiyu tokim al kol musaf musaf. So likewise, that seems to tell us that you could do it on other occasions as well. Like we raised the question about the example of Rosh Hashanah that started on the Shabbos, right? So Talmud Loma,
Be doing a lot of blowing.
right?
No,
So-
Kohanim blew.
Right. So Talmud Loma, right? Uvaroshe Chodshechem. Okay. And the fact that it says on the beginning of the new months, Tiyufta de Rabbi Acha, Tiyufta. Excuse me. That this seems to be a proof text then, right? Against Rabbi Acha's
There's
view.
only one blowing, no
Okay.
matter how many.
So that
Musa.
it doesn't matter how many, whether you have an example that we have of three possible, right? Because you could have Shabbos, Rosh Hashanah, and Rosh Chodesh, right? So that's a possibility of three. The implication is clearly, no, there's just one, okay, for all of them,
From the word Chodshei.
okay? Now, why do we get it? How do we derive it from there? Because number one, it says uvaroshe, so that's plural, okay? And then it says chodshei, all right?
Which could be read with a shva.
Well, we don't
Well,
have
they
it
have-
here. We'll see.
Here they have the yud, but in the Chumash it does not have the
Right,
yud.
okay. So the Gemara asks, my Talmuda, okay, what's the basis, okay, for this derivation? How do we learn this? Amar Abai, says Abai, Amar Kra. Says the Pasuk, Uvaroshe Chad Shechem. Okay, so here again, it shows the fact that the plural here is used for months. Okay, so what happens? Ukshu kol chodashim kulam zeh lezeh. Right, that they made the association, all of them one to another. Okay, Rav Ashi says as follows. Amar, he says, Ktiv in one hand place, it's written, Chad Shechem, okay,
Without
and
the
rather it's without the yud, right? Uktiv uveroshe, and there also. Okay, so Chad Shechem, even without the yud, could still be understood as plural. Okay, and here elsewhere it's written plural, Roshe. Ve'ez chodesh sheyesh lo shnei roshim. So what month situation could it be that you have a month where it has, in a sense, two beginnings? Would have to be. That's because the month would be Tishrei, right? Ve'omer ze Rosh Hashanah, because it's both the start of the new year and the start of a new month, right? Okay. Va'amar Rachmana, says Rachmana, okay, Chad Shechem. Okay, Chad he, okay,
No, here it's pronounced Chad Shechem,
Chad Shechem.
your month.
Okay, well, that's what, if you read it without the yud.
Right.
Okay, that's the
That's
point.
Chadhi. It's a
Right.
singular word.
So there, the word is written. Ktiv is singular, but may not necessarily read it then. Okay, so what happens? Va'od, and furthermore, okay, says the Gemara Tanya, another text. B'cholo shel moed. Okay, so we raised a question about, right, the Shabbos Chol Moed of Sukkot was another example that they tried to give. Okay. So what happens? Barishon Mahayu Omri. So the Gemara asks there, right, in that question. Okay. All right. So here we're going to sort of move to a new, in a sense, a new, I don't want to say new topic,
New way
but
explaining.
another perspective. Okay. What did they say on the first? Okay. What does it mean? The first?
First day of Rosh
First
Chodesh.
day of Rosh
of Chol Hamoed.
of Sukkot. All right. What did they say? Havu Lashem b'nei Elim. They said that sound. B'sheni. What did they say in the second day? The Levites. Mahayu Omrim. What did they say? L'resha Amar Elohim. Okay, so they gave a different sound. B'shlishi ma hayu omrim. What did they say on the third day? Mi yikum li am mre'im. Again, another example. B'ravi'i ma hayu omrim. What did they say on the fourth? Right? Binu bo'arim ba'am. Okay, so they're citing all these different tehillim. Okay. B'chamishi ma hayu omrim. What would they say then? Okay, we're going to see hasiroti misevel shechmot. B'shishi ma hayu omrim. What would they say on the
6th day.
sixth day? No, I'm looking at
Because
one of my
Sukkot is
other
the-
notes. Okay, but right on the 6th day. Mariurim yamotu komos de aretz. They make various, in the notes in art school in Koren, by the way, make various associations why certain psalms may have been picked on different days. Okay, the very first one, for example, was because an association with the fact that that was the day that Nisuch HaMayim was done. So you have a psalm that relates to reference to water, for example, things like that. Okay? So what happens? So it goes on here. All right, Yamim Kol Mosteratz. Ve'im Chal Shabbat be'echad mehem. Okay, what happens? He said, if one of the days are Shabbos, Yamutu Yidachek. Okay, that psalm will be put off. Right?
So
Right.
you skip that.
You would skip that particular
you
one.
replace
that day.
whatever day it is
With
with
this
Mizmor
Shishol Yom
Shabbos,
Shabbos.
and now
Right.
you have too many.
Okay.
So the one that's always left out is Yamut.
Well, we'll
And
see.
you push all the
We'll
others
see.
off.
Rav Safra, okay, Menach Baho Simana. So just as the Gemara wants to tell us, how do you remember the order of these psalms? Rav Safra had a mnemonic device, okay, that he called Hey Vav Mem Bet Hey Yud, okay, to help him remember. Rav Papa also had a mnemonic device. Interestingly enough, his order was different a little
He
bit.
switched the base.
Right? Manach Baho Simana Hey Vav Mem Hey Beis Yud. Okay, so he switched some. The Simanach, okay, and another example is Aleph Mem Bet Vav Hey Aleph. Okay, Desifre, Tiyufta the Rabbi Acha Bar Chanina Tiyufta. Okay, so again, this also could be used as a proof text, okay, against Rabbi Acha's view. So the Gemara asks, Vaha, wait a second, you've just attempted at least 2 times to show that Rav Acha's perspective is incorrect, right?
Trumpets.
Okay, and so in other words, that you were blowing, right? So what happens? But he cited sources. Vaha Rabbi Acha Bar Chanina, Kra Umatnita Kama. He cited a pasuk. He cited rabbinic texts too, right? So what happens? Amar Ravina, Lomar Shema Arichin B'Tkiel. Now, what he meant there is that you extend, okay, the length of the sounds of the trumpets in that situation. Okay? Rabbanan de Kazari, whereas the rabbis in Caesarea, Mishmei de Rabbi Acha, in the name of Rabbi Acha,
This is a different Rabbi Acha.
okay, Amrei, what did they say? Lomar Shemar Be Betokim. No, you increase the numbers of trumpeters. Okay, in other words, that's how you satisfy the issue. Okay,
How you meet his
his idea that you're going to make more sounds, okay, by having more people make the sounds. That's the difference. Okay, Va'anan de idlan tre yomi hechi avdinan, and we who have 2 days.
I mean, now we're in
Okay.
Bavel.
Back in Bavel, right? What do? Okay. So he answers, Abai Amar, says Abai, Sheni Yidiche. Okay, that he claims that the psalm that would be done on the second day, all right, that's what he's arguing, right, would be set aside.
This is interesting because They don't have a Beis Hamikdash. They're not doing Nusach HaMayim. So
Yeah.
what do you, and we do not recite a different Tehillim for each day
Right.
of Chol HaMoed. So what I'm asking you, if you know, exactly why does he ask this question? I understand the question, I understand the answer, but why is he asking this question when the minhag is not to recite?
How do we know that the minhag?
You're saying maybe they still did.
That's exactly.
Okay,
I'm saying that would be the only answer I could give, is that it's very possible.
that they did it.
Right. So what happens is on the first day, they did Psalm 29. On the second day, they did Psalm 50. On the third and fourth days, they did Psalm 94. On the fifth day, Psalm 81. On the sixth day, Psalm 82. So that was the implication. Okay. So Abai, the case says that the second one, right,
Skip.
would be skipped. Rabba Amar, Shvi'i Yidacha. No, Rabba disagrees, and he basically says, no, it's different. It's on the seventh day.
Leave
that
out
one.
the last one.
Okay, we leave out the last one. Now, what was interesting is Tanya Kivate de Rabba. And we've got a text that teaches according to Rabba, Imchal Shabbat Liot Be'echad Mehen. Okay, says this Braita. What happens if Shabbos is one of those? Okay, Yamoto Idachek. That particular psalm, which was if I remember the second one, right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, that would be some. So, however, now notice what happens. We have the Gemara tell us, Itkin amema b'nahada'a, the medalge deluge. That Amemar made a takana in the city of Nahardea, that they would want to say skip around.
Skip backwards.
Okay. So in other words, his plan was a little different. That the first day of Chol HaMoed, they would sort of do 2 and 3, and the second day 3 and 4. Okay, and things like that.
That's how we do it with the Aliyahs.
Exactly, right. So just as we'll go roll over in a moment, what was surprising to me, at least as I was looking at this, was the fact that you're actually seeing that there were multiple minhagim in Bavel, that they did not all follow the same minhag. Okay, if that's the case, then when the Rishonim had to deal with the Gemara and the Halacha, you really had to make, do you follow Eretz Yisrael? Do you follow Bavel? And in Bavel, which of the minhagim in Bavel do you follow?
Well, we had that before when the Shliach Tzibur did with one way and the two guest rabbis ignored him. I mean, until they evolved one minhag, each community had its own. We still have that.
We still have somewhat, yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Let's go on now. Our new Mishnah on Nun Hey Amud Beis is really going to talk about the division of labor among the 24 priestly mishmarot. Okay. Now, this is where your math lessons come in. Okay. All right. But okay, but let's I don't want to say simplify it, but if we present, I think if we clarify it, we know there were 24 mishmarot, right? There weren't necessarily 24 separate offerings. Okay, so how is it divided? The Mishnah wants to begin to tell us, okay, one approach. Yom Tov Harishon Shel Chag, first day of Sukkot. What happened? How many offerings? Hayu Sham Yud Gimel Parim. So there were 13 parim, right? Add to that Elim Shnayim. So that's now 2 more, so that's 15. V'sa'ir Echad.
16.
So now we get 16. So 16 from 24 leaves 8, right? So what about those other 8 mishmarot? What did they do? Okay,
There's still the 14 sheep.
okay, well, we'll see. Nishtairu sham yud daled kivasim l'shmona mishmarot. So the Gemara, the Mishnah tells us, well, there still remain 14 the animals, right? For the remaining 8 mishmarot. So how are you going to divide that up? Mishnah continues. B'yom rishon, shisha makrivim, shnayim. In other words, on that first day, 6 of those 8 mishmarot offered up 2 animals, right?
That's 12
V'hashar echad. And the remaining 2,
families
right,
got one
families,
animal
they
each.
got 1 animal. Okay. B'sheni, on the second day of the holiday, chamisha makrivin shnayim. Okay, 5 mishmarot got 2 animals. V'hashar echad. Okay, and then 3 got
Good.
1.
The issue, each day there's one less bull.
1, that's less
So
than
there's
one.
one more remaining family to
It
divvy
has
up
to be
the
that.
sheep.
B'shlishi, on the third day, arba makrivin shnayim. So 4 out of the 8 get 2 animals, right? And then the other 4, v'hashar echad. They only got 1 animal apiece. B'ravi'i, on the 4th day, shlosha makrivin shnayim. Okay, and then the other 5, v'hashar echad. They each got 1. B'chamishi, okay, on the 5th day of the holiday, right? Shnayim makrivim shnayim. Okay, the right,
The first 2 families.
okay, the 2 families got 2 animals each, and the other 6, v'hashar echad. Okay, it bothered me that why did it have to keep saying v'hashar? Okay, probably for the memorization of the Mishnah, it was probably easier to do it that way
Well, those
than
also,
again the number,
every
additional
time he
numbers.
mentions the kvasim, he uses the word shar because
Okay.
the kvasim are still left to do,
Do.
and those
Could
families
be.
are still left to do
Right.
it.
B'shishi, on the 6th day, echad makriv shnayim. Okay, it actually only says shnayim once. Okay, on the 6th day, 1. Okay, and the other 7, v'hashar echad. B'shvi'i, on the 7th day, kulan shavin. They were all equal.
Every family got
Everybody
one
only
sheep.
got 1, right? B'shmini, on the 8th day, what happens? What's the 8th day? Shmini
There's
Atzeres.
only one
So
star.
exactly right. We're going to get to that exactly. So what happens? We no longer have the same format of offerings that we had on Sukkot, because there we had multiple offerings, okay, in reducing numbers. On Shmini Atzeret, that's not the case. It has its own separate,
One car,
right?
one-
right? So what happens there? B'shmini chazru lefayes kiberegalim. On the 8th day, what do? They return back to the lottery as was done on any other holiday. Exactly. Amru, and they said as follows. Okay, this was another
No, this is a continuing explanation
Yeah.
of the list of families and what they do.
okay, so in other words, what they're saying here is they, I was going to say, had another kind of ground rule. Okay, besides the numbers, mi shehekriv parim hayom lo yakriv the machar. The one, though that family or that watch that had the opportunity to offer parim one day, they did not get to do that further. Okay.
Rotate.
Exactly.
Right. So in other words, the first day, the first 12 families get the Purim.
Right.
And then the next 2 families get the Seir, et cetera, et cetera.
And then
On
they,
day 2,
They
you
went on.
start with family 14.
Okay,
And you go
We'll
through
see.
the road.
all right, lo yak, lo yak,
So it actually.
Lemachar.
only one
So
gets
that's
it.
what it says. Lemachar ele chozrin chalila. In other words, the eighth day they returned to the standard lottery and they rotated. Okay, Gemara. What does the Gemara want to tell us? Nema matnitin. Shall we say that our Mishnah then, okay, when it refers to this whole business of the lottery, okay, Rebbehi velo Rabbanan, that the, let's say the author, the teacher of this Mishnah has to be Rebbe and not the rabbis. The Tanya. Why? Because we have a Braita that says, Par haba b'shmini, b'tchila mefaisin alav divrei Rebbe. That animal, that particular par that was brought on the eighth day was accommodated, I'm going to use the word, by means of the lottery, according to Rebbe. But the sages say, Echat mishtei mishmarot, delo shilshu b'parim ose oto. Namely, that one of the watches, one of the families that had not had a third opportunity to do parim, they were the ones who would do that.
They would choose between them.
Okay. Now, afilu tema rabbanan, says the Gemara. You might even say here that we could say that this Mishnah was authored or edited by the rabbis. Why? Atu shtei mishmarot lo afuse bai. Okay, since we're saying that with regards to the two of them, okay, that there was no lottery necessary. Kiman as lahadatan, according to whom here was this taught. Kol hamishmarot shonot umishloshot chutz mishnei mishmarot sheshonot ve'ein mishal shalom. Okay, whereas we have a Braita that teaches all of the watches, okay, did a second and a third turn, okay, except for two of the watches, okay, that only did two turns and not a third turn. Nema Rebbe. Shall we say this is Rebbe's view and not the rabbis? Afilu tema Rabbana. We might even say this was the rabbis. Mai lo shalshu. So what do we mean when we say that they didn't get a third turn, so to speak? It's right. B'prei hachag.
Pare.
B'parei hachag. Okay, all right. So in other words, that they did not do that par, okay, regarding that situation. Okay, so what happens? Umay kamash malan. What does it teach us then? Ha kamash malan. Misha hakriv parim hayom lo yakriv the machar. Ela chozrin chalila. Okay, so they did this rotation. Okay, now, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Hani Shivim Parim Keneged me. Okay, why did we have on Sukkot a total of 70 animals here? Okay, what was the answer? Keneged Shivim Umot. Okay, in conjunction with the idea that there were 70 nations in the world. Okay, Par Yechidi Lama. So what about Shmini Atzeret then, when there was a singular, I'm using that term, animal in that case, because there was going to tell us there's a singular nation as well. Okay? Keneged Uma Yechida. Okay? That mark that particular nation, unique or singular nation, that's B'nai, that's Yisrael. Right? Mashal Melech, nice story now. Mashal Melech Basar V'dam. So we'll make an allegory to a flesh and blood king. Shamar la'avadav, who said to his servant, Asuli su'uda gedola, cater a large meal for all my people. Liyom acharon, and on the last day, Amali ohavo, okay, on the last day he said to that particular servant who was endeared to him, Asali su'uda ketana, let's make just a small meal, kadei she'ehenem mimcha. Okay, that you and I will share that together, kind of thing. Okay? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Oy lehem la'ovdei kochavim, she'avdu, okay? Woe to those other nations, I'm going to say, okay, that they're lost. Why? Ve'ein yodin ma she'avdu, and they don't really know what they're missing out on, right? Bizman shebeit hamikdash kayam, at the time that the temple was in existence, mizbeach mechaper aleihem, the altar brought atonement for them. V'achshav mi mechaper aleihem, and now
Nothing.
what the atonement is available to them. Okay, that's right. Okay, new mission. Right? Bishlosha prakim bishana hayu kol mishmarot shavot. On 3 occasions throughout the year, the watches were equal. When were they? Be'emurei harigali. Okay, those parts of animals offered on the holidays, right? The special parts.
Yeah, here emure means the cut that the kahanim get.
Right,
from
the special sections, right? Ubichiluk lechem hapanim, and the distribution of the lechem panim, all right? Ube'atzeret, and on Atzeret, on Shavuos, when it coincides with the Shabbos, okay? That's the case. Omer lo, okay, halech matzah, halech chametz. There they would say, here is part of an offering that is
the lechem
leaven,
upon him.
right? And here is part of an offering that is another
The
variety.
shtei lechem.
Okay, mishmesh, right? Shezmano kavua, okay, that its time was fixed. Who makriv to me
No,
deem
mishmar.
mishmar. Oh, right. Okay, mishmar shezmano kavua. The watch that
That
was
would get
officially
that
set at that time. Okay, in other words, remember that they actually had the way the year was set. Each mishmar actually had duty twice a year. Okay,
Where was it established before?
That was in Mitzias, how many families there were.
That was
David
Governor
Amelech.
Mill established.
At the time that, once upon a time, there were 24 families.
Yeah.
And they
I
argued
didn't see
among,
any further reference, that's why.
and then they argued among themselves and came up with this list, and one of the families, for
Governor Mill
whatever other
established.
reason.
Governor
was-
Mill
Right.
established your take.
so mishmash shezmano kavua, the one who was fixed at that particular time. Who makriv tmidin nidarim or nidavot. Ushar korbanot tzibur. Okay, that particular, I'll say, assigned mishmar, watch, okay, they would offer the tmidin, the daily morning sacrifices, nidarim, voluntary, nidavot, volunteer sacrifices, ushar korbanot tzibur, other communal offerings, umakriv et hakol. Okay, and they would do it. So the Gemara now continues.
So even though the other mishmaros get to share in the
Other
meat,
but they
offerings, do not get to actually
do
a
the
part of it.
avoda. Right. In other words, the regular
course, we have
assigned,
2 extra things.
the assigned the group did the avoda, but nevertheless, the others.
All the other kahanim got a cut.
Right? Yeah, peace. Okay. Gemara says, Emurei harigalim, regarding these special portions of the holidays, shel gavoa nidhu. Don't they belong to the Kadosh Baruch Hu? Okay, aren't they his? Amar Rav Chisda, says Rav Chisda, ma sha'amur b'regali. Now we're talking about what that was said in terms of regarding these holidays, as taught in a Braita, Tanu Rabbanan, minayin shekol hamishmarot shavot be'imurei harigalim. On what basis is it that all of the watches were equal regarding these special portions for the holidays? Talmud Loma, says the pasuk, uba bechol ot nafsho v'sherei. Okay, that basically it said, excuse me, right? Right, and he comes with all the desire, right? And he shall serve, right? Yechol af b'shar yemot hashana ki. Right? You could argue that that could apply to other times in a
Anytime.
year,
anybody
right?
wants.
What happens? Talmud Loma, excuse me. Talmud Loma says the text me'achad she'arech, that it applies particularly when we say what? Okay, when it's at one of your cities. So what does that mean? Lo amarti ela b'sha'a shekol Yisrael nichnasin b'sha'ar echad. Implies that it's when they all enter. So when is that? A pilgrimage holiday.
When everybody shows
When
up.
they're
in
all
one
coming
city.
into the city of Jerusalem for the regel. Okay. Ubechiluk lechem hapanim. What about that example? All right. Tanu Rabbanim. We've got another bright. Excuse me. That says minayin shekola mishmarot shavot bechiluk lechem hapanim. Notice, by the way, this writer spells it out, what it didn't say earlier.
Well, we said matzah.
Okay, right. So the lechem hapanim. Okay, just go over a tiny bit. Talmud Lomar. What does the text tell us? Chelik chelik yochelim. That they'll each eat their portion. Kechelik avodah, kach chelik achila. Okay, the amount, so the work,
Normally.
right? Normally it's you do the work, you get the food. All right. Umay achila. What do we mean here by achila? Ilema korbanot. If we say it's in regards to the offerings, mehatam nafka. From there, right?
Bread,
It should come out of it. All right. But namely, the kohen hamakriv ota lo tiyeh. Okay, from that pasuk, it should be very clear that the kohen who does the job gets the food. Okay. Ela lechem hapani. But in regards to that, yechol af b'chovot habaot shalom michamat haregel b'regel. Okay, it could be there. He says that it's derived, right, from the fact that it's not from the festival that the offering is coming from. All right. So Talmud Lomar levad mimkarav al ha'avot. Ma machru avot ze al ze. We'll tune in tomorrow and pick up there.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Good.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone here that has the intent to go to the Siyum on the 1st at Century Grill that has not contacted me?
Oh, leaving on a freight train?
All right.
Well, depends if it flies into the air. No, isn't that a
All
small?
Okay.
Jet plane.
Oh,
Jet
yeah,
plane.
jet
Living on a
plane.
jet
All
plane.
right, see how old I am? I thought it was a freight.